Today, we're going to talk about why you should not hire from the Philippines for your e-commerce business. I'm Zach. I'm the founder of Talented. We place talent from the Philippines into 7- and 8-figure e-commerce businesses. We have our own Amazon store that does $1 million a year in revenue, and I've been hiring from the Philippines since 2021. I'm making this video today because a lot of overseas hiring agencies are going to tell you that there's no problems when it comes to hiring from the Philippines, that it's all sunshine and rainbows. And when I made my first hire, that was far from true. And so now I've literally told potential clients on sales calls, look, I don't think hiring from the Philippines is gonna be a good fit for you. I'm making this video for the entrepreneur that is in the same place that I was. I want you to be aware of all the roadblocks, all the information that comes with hiring from the Philippines so you can make the best decision for your business. And if you do, then one day I hope you work with us to find your next overseas hire. So the war of hiring overseas comes with 4 main battles we're going to talk about. The communication battle, the time zone battle, the autonomy battle, and your own battle. Starting with the time zone battle. They are literally on the other side of the world from you. If you're familiar with Antipodes, the capital of the Philippines, Manila, if you go to the other side of the globe, it puts you basically in Brazil. And if you look at that longitudinally, you line up with New York City, essentially. So that means the time difference is 12 hours, give or take, depends on where you are in the US. So when you're just wrapping up your day, getting ready for bed, the sun is just rising for them, which creates a daily struggle that some people are not prepared for, because that urgent email you sent is going to wait until your team wakes up. The customer complaint that needs immediate attention, going to have to wait. Any mistake, miscommunication, unfinished task, you're waiting 8+ hours to get a response on those. And trying to schedule a time for meeting with your team member it's an extra layer of difficulty to try and figure out what time works for both of you. You think you're hiring help, but now you're just spending your days waiting. You realize that your business is moving at half the speed it should. You either ask them to work US hours, force yourself to wake up early or stay up late, or just accept that everything is taking longer than it should. And maybe you even try hiring someone to work the night shift, but they're not used to it and they burn out after 2 weeks. I've interviewed plenty of great Filipino workers who told me the same story, that their past US employer could not handle the time difference, so they found someone locally for 10 times the cost. Then the communication battle. Communication is obviously a bare minimum to doing business in general, and plenty of Filipinos do not speak English very well. I see a lot of applications with an A1 or an A2 English test, which is the lowest you can get. Now, this leads to you having to explain something once, explain it again, then again, just for the task to still be done wrong. And a simple email is going to take 5 rounds of edits before it sounds like something that you would say. And you read back these customer messages and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. And your workload actually increases because you're having to do all this checking of their work, and you always have to give clarification as to what you meant by this. Then on the other side of communication, they have too much respect for authority. You'll ask, do you understand how to do this? Does this make sense? They'll say, yes, sir. Then they'll deliver something that looks nothing like what you talked about. And the problem isn't even that they don't care, it's that they've been conditioned to not challenge authority. So instead of asking for clarification, pushing back when it doesn't make sense, admitting when they don't understand, they'll just try to figure it out themselves and hope they get it right. And now you're like, okay, this is creating me more problems than it's saving me time. Then the autonomy battle, the third reason why you should not hire from the Philippines. You spend more time babysitting than leading. They are an extremely process-driven culture, which initially might sound great until you realize that they're always waiting for step-by-step instructions from you. They want to follow the process exactly, even when it's clearly not working. And the moment something unexpected happens, they freeze and wait for your response. Most Filipino hires come from call center backgrounds where they're literally trained to be spoon-fed, to follow these scripts, not to solve problems. So when Shopify updates its interface, when Amazon changes the name of a report, they don't know how to adapt. They wait for you to tell them what to do, which means you're still making every decision. You're still the bottleneck. Now, then that gets us into training. Many resumes might look great. You know, they have this years of experience that says they know these softwares, but who trained them on these things? How well do they really know them? Did that guy that trained them know what he was doing? Would he do this stuff the same way you would? And how much time are you going to spend retraining these bad habits, these bad methods of doing things? Because when you dig deeper, you might realize that a Shopify expert just added a couple products to a template, or the PPC specialist watched some YouTube videos from someone doing barely any revenue, or a customer service VA just knows how to copy and paste templates. Instead of focusing on growth, you're spending your time retraining these awful methods and trying to get them into your way of doing things. And at some point, you ask yourself, why am I still doing all this work and training if I hired someone that was supposed to know how to do it? They were supposed to take it off my plate. Then that brings us to number 4, your own battle. Can you be the leader that your overseas team is going to need? Some people think that hiring a VA is going to magically save you time. It's going to give you less stress. You can outsource everything and you're going to have more freedom. So now you can become a travel bro and be in Cape Town, South Africa. But suddenly you're answering more questions than you were before. You're having to review every task to make sure it was done right. And you always have to hold them accountable to doing their job. They don't have the background that you do. They don't have the context that you have. You've been running the business way longer than they've been in it. They're not a mind reader. If you don't give them the instructions, they won't know what to do, and they're only as good as their leader. It's you. A lot of business owners hire VA and then blame them when things go wrong. They just couldn't handle my work environment, when in reality, they never gave them the opportunity, the resources to succeed with you. The most successful entrepreneurs are not just good at running the business alone. They're good at developing people. And if you're not ready to step into that role, your VA is not going to be the one holding you back. So if you're still here watching this video, you see there's a lot of time left. That means that despite everything I've talked about, you still want to make this work for your e-commerce business. Because for all the roadblocks, all the delays, all the frustrations, hiring from the Philippines can be the best decision you ever make for your business. I know it was for mine. Because they cost a fraction of what a US employee would. They're some of the hardest working people you'll ever meet. And they keep your business running even while you're asleep. But the catch is, these problems I just laid out don't just magically disappear. You have to know how to handle them and approach them correctly. But if you do, what looks like a challenge turns into your competitive edge. Let's start off with that time zone solution. So what if the 12-hour time difference actually gives you 24 hours of productivity? Some people try to force their team into working US hours, which if they're not used to it, can lead to burnout and low morale. For my team, I have them on a flexible hour schedule so they can work when they best see fit. And then we have a clear overlap window of a couple hours that we can have that communication. And for me, it actually creates quite a strong cycle because I can give feedback in that overlap, set the plans for the day. They work while I sleep, and then I wake up with stuff ready to review. Now, some roles are gonna require US hours though, like customer service roles, but many Filipinos are actually used to that schedule because of these call centers. They're working for Uber or DoorDash customer service. Now, in order to maintain that same high quality of candidate, you're gonna have to pay a premium for that night shift. And you also have to make sure you're screening them carefully because some will say that, yeah, night shift is cool with me, but I want someone that's actively working it right now so that they don't burn out. And not everything needs to be a meeting. I'm a big fan of using Looms to record something once, having Slack updates or Trello updates so that we can keep updated on the progress of a project, and having clear SOPs. I mean, for the stuff that is repetitive, it's great to have somewhere this knowledge base to know what the process looks like. This still will not work for you if your business requires instant responses and you're not willing to pay that premium for the night shift. But if you're willing to adjust, that time zone problem actually can be an advantage with the extra coverage you get. Now you're saying, okay, the time zones are manageable for me, but what about that language barrier? Well, what if the barrier to communication actually didn't have to do with their English? The reality is most schools in the Philippines are taught in English, which means the test, the instruction is all in English. 55% of the adult population speaks English. Now, it's a big country that puts you at around 39 million people. The Philippines ranks number 20 in the world. Now, this sounds great, and it is, but you also have to keep in mind that some of that might be base level English, which is why English screening is important. Most people are going to rely on written tests only, which I use those too, but someone can write in decent English or use AI to answer it and still struggle to speak and understand it naturally. So what I found to work is part of our application process is a video response where I have them answer a question. You can pretty easily see their fluency. And then, of course, when I'm actually hopping on an interview, asking them questions live, you'll know right away. Now, to tackle the yes sir problem, like we said, Filipino culture respects authority, which is great for loyalty, but terrible for communication. The ways that I found to still make this work are first, having them repeat the instructions back to you instead of just a, yes, I understand, having them put it in their own words. And then requiring at least 1 to 2 questions per task or per meeting. This is especially important during the onboarding so I can have them thinking of what to say, what to ask. Because if they don't have questions, they probably don't understand it that well. And overall, just building a team culture where asking questions is normal. Like some of them will be like, oh, I don't want to bother you. And so I make it clear, you're not bothering me. Part of my job as a leader is to answer the questions you have. And I can only help you best if you ask these questions. So really drilling it into their head that like, I'm here to help you. Ask me the questions that you have. This still will not work for you if your leadership style is just get it done. I don't have time to answer questions about that. Now you're thinking, all right, I can manage the time zones and find someone who speaks English. But what about all that training they need? What if the right approach could actually create team members who think autonomously, not just follow directions? Starting from the top, you got to hire for critical thinking. Most people are just going to focus solely on experience, but that doesn't always translate to real business. You need to find out, can they actually think for themselves? The first way I do this is through asking scenario-based questions as part of our application process. So like putting themselves in situations they might face or that they haven't faced before and seeing how they would think through their reaction. And then, especially on the interview, looking for initiative. What's been times in their past jobs or even in their personal life where they've taken initiative, gone above and beyond what they're expected? If they only know how to follow steps, you're just hiring a robot. Now, in terms of the actual training and leadership, I always lead with the why, not the what. Clear SOPs are great. There's a place for those, but real business is not always just a checklist. Instead, I explain the why behind every task, why we're doing it, how it benefits them, how it benefits the company. And I start with the goal, the outcome, and we work backwards on what it's going to take to get there. And having them make small judgment calls along the way so they can build that confidence. This shifts them from waiting for instructions to being able to figure things out on their own, how they're going to get to that outcome. Some more ways I do this are through progressive responsibility. So a new hire is not starting at full speed, getting dumped off a cliff. We're starting very narrow, very focused, and then gradually expanding that over time. Not only from a responsibility perspective, but from an information perspective. I don't want them to be overwhelmed. Then role play. I want to always be putting them into these situations, stress testing before we get there. So asking, what would you do if this happened? And throwing them curveball tasks and seeing how they figure it out. So like sometimes instead of just giving a task and laying out all the instructions, being like, here's this task we have. And I already know the instructions, but I'm gonna say, what do you think it's gonna take us to get to that outcome? So they keep flexing that muscle and having them explain how they're gonna solve the problem instead of just straight up giving them my answer. Because I want them to think independently, think on their feet. And if we keep flexing that muscle, they'll keep using it. Now, this is still not for you if you expect a set it and forget it hiring model. You just hire a VA, good to go. Or if you micromanage and never let them make decisions. But if you train them right, you'll have a VA who actually works like an extension of you, thinks like you do without needing constant babysitting. Now you're saying, all right, I see how I can make this work with the right screening and the right training approach, but am I actually ready to be a leader? What if becoming a leader is actually the most valuable skill you could develop as an entrepreneur? I always start off with the why. Why are you building a team? Is it to buy back your time so you can focus on the stuff only you can do? Is it to scale faster so you're not so caught up in the day-to-day? Or is it because you think you should? You see other people that are doing it and you're like, oh, maybe I should do that too. Or because you want the status. You want to be able to say to a girl, yeah, you know, I got employees working for me right now. Your answer is going to determine how you lead. Now, some people think that leadership comes naturally. Some people have it, some people don't. And I'm a firm believer that is not the case. It is a learned skill. It is one that I've been developing for many years. The first way is through information. reading leadership books, watching podcasts from people that have actually done it. I'm always a student of the game, but that only gets you so far. My favorite way now is just straight up asking for feedback from my team, having a little bit of vulnerability. Like, look, I'm not the best leader I can be, but with your feedback, I can get close to that over time. So with my team, I'm always asking them on our meetings, our one-on-ones, some variation of what would you do differently if you were me? And most of the time, they won't have an answer, but the more I ask it, the more they start to think, okay, what could I answer with next time he asks me? The times that I do have gotten the feedback have been very valuable for me to improve and be better. And they know, because I ask it so much, they know that I'm not going to react emotionally if they actually provide me constructive feedback. Then the other way I lead is by creating clear growth paths. So VAs don't just want a job. They want a reason to care about your business. They want to see how your vision for the business fits into their vision for themselves. So I do this by defining what success looks like in their role and setting expectations for how they can have that promotion path, that responsibility path over time, how they can achieve what they want to achieve. When people see a future with your company, they don't just work for you, they work with you. You develop a team that's all working towards shared goals. Now, this still won't work for you if you just want a magic bullet that'll make all your tasks disappear, or if you don't want to lead, you don't want to train, and you don't want to get feedback. But if you're willing to step up, if you're willing to put the effort in to build your team the right way, you will not have a VA. You will have leverage. You will have freedom. You will have a business that is greater than you are. Most people will not take these approaches, and that's why they're still stuck with a group of data entry VAs or still doing everything themselves. But if you do, this is how you scale without losing control. So you're saying, all right, I can handle all that. Now what? Now you need to find and hire these exceptional team members in the first place. So if you want my full 2-week process on hiring from the Philippines, click this video up above. I appreciate you watching the end, and I'll see you in the next video.